Hi everyone, welcome back to AP Environmental Science. In today's video, we're going to be covering Unit 4.3, which is all about the island biogeography theory. Okay, so again, this unit is all about biodiversity, and we are going to explore today how geography and how islands influence biodiversity. So, species are not uniformly or evenly distributed over the Earth's surface. Diversity varies greatly from place to place. Around the world, there are a variety of different species depending on the biomes that they are a part of. Recognition of these worldwide patterns in animal species was the first step in understanding biogeography, which is the geographic distribution of species. And it leads us into the island biogeography theory. After an island is formed, it will soon be inhabited by organisms. The size and distance from the mainland affect the number of species that the island can support. Immigration rates and extinction rates also play a hand in the number of species on the island. So, as extinction increases, immigration decreases. The point of intersection is the equilibrium for the island. Okay, so let's decompact that for a second. So, remember, extinction is going to be every single individual in a species no longer exists anymore. Okay, and immigration is individuals coming to an area. Okay. So when the extinction and immigration meet, that is the intersection. That's the equilibrium. Okay. The intersection is the equilibrium for the island. It's essentially when the depths are going to equal the incoming individuals. Islands that are closer to the mainland or other larger islands will have a higher rate of immigration. However, as more species inhabit the island, immigration will decrease. There's no more room. With more species comes higher extinctions because there is not enough resources on that island to support everyone. So size and distance are important. Oh no, I'm trying to move this. Size and distance are important. Come here, you thing. Okay, there we go. Size and distance are important. Larger islands hold more species than smaller islands, and closer to the mainland are easier to reach than farther away. Sorry. Important key terms. Endemic species are plant and animal species that are found in a particular geographical region and nowhere else in the world. So would these be specialist or generalist species? I would like you to determine that right now in your notes. So, okay, let's again uncompact or decompact this theory. So the island biogeography theory is essentially stating that islands that are closer to the mainland and larger islands that are again closer to the mainland will be able to be more easily reached by emigrating. Emigrating means leaving, immigration means going to. So islands that are closer to the mainland and are larger and also close to the mainland will have higher rates of immigration to those islands because they are easier to get to, and if they are a large island, they have more resources available to new incoming individuals. Okay. So this is the distance effect. The farther an island lies from a continent, the fewer species tend to find and colonize it. Thus, remote islands host few species because of low immigration. The target size. Larger islands have high immigration rates because they present fatter targets for dispersing organisms to encounter. Other species do not have vision or as good as vision as we do. So if they can see a bigger island and if they're able to fly to it or get to it somehow, they're going to go to it. Okay? If it's a small little island really far away, they're not going to be able to get to it. Differential extinction is when larger islands have lower extinction rates because they just have more space, more resources, and they're less likely to drop to zero by chance. This is very similar to the bottleneck effect. Essentially, the larger the area, the less likely it is to have populations drop to zero. And the bottleneck effect is that when you have larger populations, they're more likely to recover after a bottleneck event like a forest fire or a hurricane. And now we have a little bit about invasive species. So again, reminder, specialists are sensitive to changes and are often wiped out by invasive species. If you do not know what an invasive species is, an invasive species is essentially a species that is introduced often by accident or intentional to an area and they did not originally live there. Invasive species tend to be generalist species. They have a wide variety of conditions and ecological niches they can fulfill. They have a wide variety of diets. So they really can, adapt and are adaptable to any area. And they typically have pretty severe impacts on the environment and particularly on specialist species. Remember, specialists are sensitive to change. They have very small ecological niches. So when invasive species are introduced, they unfortunately destroy the habitat and reduce local biodiversity as well. And this relates to the island biogeography theory because if you have invasive species immigrating to these islands that already have specialist species, they will have an impact on those specialist species. And the effects on evolution, an excellent example of the island biogeography theory is on Darwin's finches in the Galapagos Islands. So a small population was blown over to an island chain from Ecuador by a hurricane. The island's distance from the mainland affected the bird's evolution. On these different islands of the Galapagos, there was different finches, all with different sizes of beaks, depending on what seeds or fruits or nuts were available to those birds. Okay, remember that organisms do not choose to adapt. Your adaptations, your traits are directly influenced by your DNA, and we cannot choose our DNA. We cannot manipulate our DNA. We cannot change our DNA. We either have the traits that make us able to survive and reproduce, or we do not. So the finches that were blown over to these islands, the ones that had the traits that allowed them to survive and reproduce, were the ones that survived and reproduced and passed on those traits to their offspring. Okay, so this is an excellent example of this theory. And that is all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I will see you in class. Bye.